Welcome everyone. We're getting ready to start. Bienvenidos a todos. Estamos listos para comenzar nuestra llamada a la unidad 2022. Soy Ivonne Ortiz, directora de entrenamiento y asistencia técnica para NRCDV. Antes de comenzar, nuestros intérpretes van a ofrecer instrucciones de cómo accesar interpretación. Welcome to the Call for Unity 2022. My name is Ivonne Ortiz. And before we begin, the interpreters will offer instructions on how to access interpretation.
Thank you. Buenas tardes a todos. Agradecemos a los organizadores de este evento por su firme determinación de facilitar la comunicación bilingüe. Mi nombre es Mojde, mi cointérprete es Lars y representamos a la Cooperativa de Justicia del Lenguaje Tilde. Estaremos ofreciendo interpretación simultánea inglés-español y español a inglés. Good afternoon, everybody. We thank the organizers of this event for their firm commitment to facilitating bilingual communication. My name is Mojde, my co-interpreter is Lars, and we represent the Tilde Language Justice Cooperative. We will be providing English-Spanish and Spanish-English simultaneous interpretation. Si usted se unió a la reunión usando su teléfono, por favor asegúrese de entrar con el app de Zoom para poder acceder a la interpretación. Esta función no está disponible en los Chromebook. If you joined on your phone, please make sure to join on your Zoom app so that you can access interpretation. Please note that this function is not available on Chromebook. Si usted no es bilingüe español-inglés, puede seleccionar su canal de idioma haciendo clic abajo a la derecha de su pantalla de Zoom. Verá un globito si usa una computadora o los 3 puntitos si está conectado por teléfono. Tiene que seleccionar interpretación, luego español y luego picarle en Done o finalizar. If you are not bilingual Spanish-English, you can select your language channel by going to the bottom right-hand corner of your Zoom screen. Click on the globe if you're using a computer or the 3 dots if you're connected by phone. Select interpretation, then click English, click Done at the end. It is important to activate this option if you are not bilingual, as some participants may be speaking in Spanish. He estado hablando español rápido hasta ahora porque he estado haciendo la presentación en ambos idiomas. Ahora voy a hacer el resto del anuncio en un solo idioma para que usted pueda asegurar que ha podido acceder a la interpretación. Verá que voy a empezar a hablar más lentamente para que el intérprete pueda mantener el paso. I've been speaking fast in Spanish, not so fast in English because we have ASL interpretation as well. But I will do the remainder of this announcement in just one language so that you can make sure you are accessing interpretation correctly. First, I will speak just in Spanish, so please make sure to choose your English channel if you do not understand Spanish. Also make sure that the original audio, you do not choose mute original audio. Ahora, por favor, escojan su canal de español y no escojan mute original audio. Ahora sí. Algunas pautas para crear un espacio multilingüe. Por favor, no hablen muy rápido. Eso pasa especialmente cuando uno esté leyendo una presentación o emocionada, nerviosa o al tener poco tiempo. Y si no están hablando, por favor pongan su audio en silencio. Ahora voy a terminar en puro inglés. So that last part you should have heard in Spanish interpretation, in English interpretation. Okay, now, lastly, we remind you to please speak one person at a time with one language per sentence and only speak in the language of the channel you chose. If you are bilingual Spanish-English, you do not need to choose a channel. We create these spaces with everyone's support. Please communicate any issues by chat or turning on your volume. Thank you for creating this multilingual space. Es todo. That's it.
And thank you to our interpreters. Gracias a nuestros interpreters. Let's welcome our Vice President of Programs, Prevention, and Social Change, Arlene Basso, our very own. Arlene supervises NRCDV's Programs and Prevention team and oversees several key initiatives, including the Domestic Violence Awareness Project and Prevent IPV. Joining NRCDV in 2015, Arlene brings over 20 years of a multifaceted experience within the movement to end domestic and other forms of gender-based violence. Her areas of expertise include leadership development, community organizing, developing community and state-level collaborations, and creating promising practices when working with traditionally underserved and marginalized populations. Welcome, Arlene.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone, to the National Call for Unity 2022. Thank you for making time to join us today as we kick off DVAM 2022. I can't believe it's already October, but here we are. Tomorrow is October 1. Each year, at the beginning of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, NRCDV, the Domestic Violence Awareness Project Advisory Group, and friends from across the globe come together to mourn the many lives lost due to senseless acts of violence and celebrate the resilience and strength of survivors, victims, warriors, activists, and advocates via our annual Call for Unity. We know that our awareness and prevention efforts extend beyond Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but October is a time when we have the eyes, ears, and attention of individuals who are not typically connected to our work and our movement. So we must make time throughout the month to amplify our awareness and prevention efforts and invite them to join us on this journey to end gender-based violence and other forms of injustices. Our domestic violence efforts must also include honoring the legacy of our ancestors and individuals who paved the way for us to be here today. Therefore, let's take a moment to honor those individuals that paved the way for you and me to be here today. Let's say their names, let's write their names, and let us never forget their names. Our theme for DVAM is No Survivor Justice Without Racial Justice. This has been the messaging campaign for the last 3 years. Last year, the Domestic Violence Awareness Project Advisory Group asked us as a movement, as a collective, to turn up the heat on the messaging campaign. They challenged us as a movement to delve deeper into the true meaning of those words. Again, no survivor justice without racial justice. This year, the group asked us to use the same theme, but also highlight joy and resilience, the very important parts of the lived experiences of Black and Brown communities that are usually missing from the single story that oftentimes is shared about us. So in addition to no survivor justice without racial justice, this year we added cultivating joy through liberation, towards liberation. What does that even mean? Take a moment today and throughout October to ponder, what does that mean for you? No survivor justice without racial justice, cultivating joy towards liberation. At NRCDV, we believe cultivating joy is a clear path towards liberation, coming from a direct quote from my colleague, Patty Bronco, NRCDV's Senior TA and Resource Development Specialist. Let me repeat Patty's quote. Cultivating joy, always a clear path towards liberation. Let this serve as a reminder that during times of constant change, chaos, and uncertainty, we must also create space for joy in our day-to-day lives. There is no magical formula to achieving joy. There are no quick fixes. Each person must have access to the space and resources needed to cultivate joy for themselves. I know it's easier said than done, but like Dr. Maya Angelou stated, we need joy as we need air. Healing, hurting, and thriving can all happen simultaneously. So as victims, survivors, warriors, activists, and advocates, Don't allow anyone to force you into a box to choose healing or thriving, ear or joy. Today, I'm reminding you that both can happen simultaneously. So back to no survivor justice without racial justice. What are we talking about? Our DVAM awareness efforts, campaigns, and messages must also focus on dismantling systems and structures that perpetuate violence and oppression. During DVAM and beyond, our intervention and prevention efforts must address various forms of violence and racial injustices simultaneously. In order to end gender-based violence, we cannot ignore our history and the recent learnings from the multiple pandemics that we continue to navigate. This moment has forced many to listen to Black women, believe Black women, and trust Black women. This moment has reminded many that survivors are the experts of their lives. This moment has reminded many that the solutions we need to end gender-based violence are already in the communities that are disproportionately impacted by domestic violence and racial injustices. So as we continue to respond to this moment and the unique needs of survivors, advocates, and communities most impacted by violence and racial injustices, be reminded we also need to center wellness, joy, and connectedness for advocates and survivors and all who are working towards our collective liberation. So who do we need to be or become in order to lean into those values during DVAM and beyond? Today, we will hear from several phenomenal speakers, storytellers, and healers who will share their personal experiences in the movement and with the hope and desire of re-energizing and inspiring you to continue this difficult but rewarding and joyful journey towards our collective liberation. Again, welcome to our Call for Unity 2022. Yvonne.
Thank you so much, Arlene. And now I would like for us to take a moment to quiet our minds and come together as one as we listen to the universal prayer recited by Jacqueline Miller, our Director of Racial Equity and Social Change. With over 30 years of work experience within the violence against women movement, she shares her knowledge and expertise on the overlapping intersections of domestic violence, such as women and children's health, trauma and adverse childhood experiences, and the adultification of children with an emphasis on Black girls. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you, Yvonne. Hello, everyone. I invite us to hold a moment of silence. Divine Spirit, known to us by many names, this year has tested us in ways both anticipated and unforeseen. Collectively and individually, we are raw, bare, but we cannot go back. As we work to end sexual and domestic violence, as we stand up to systems, ideologies, and groups that perpetuate racism, anti-Blackness, and the oppression of historically marginalized voices and bodies, as we pursue justice, long overdue and long cried out for in this work. With this work, we arrive here today. As we enter into this month of awareness and action, we pray that you may open our eyes to a new way of knowing, feeling, and imagining. When tragedy threatens to close our hearts, give us the strength to feel the sacred hope of our ancestors and the generations that will follow us. When uncertainty shakes our foundation and tramples our visions of the future. Ground our souls in the trust of the soil beneath our feet and the air that fills our lungs. When exhaustion seeps into our spirits, help us to find deep respite in laughter, tears, community, and reflection. We pray for a daring hope, the kind we cannot ignore, a hope undeterred by logic and unrestrained by our immediate reality. We pray for a hope whose current is strong and ceaseless, even when the surface of life's water looks unchanged and unmoved. May we know that there is something greater swirling beneath its exterior, at work in our hearts and minds. When we are tired and worn and cannot muster the strength to conjure hope from our overwhelming despair, Divine Spirit, we ask that you hold our hand. For this alone sustains. We ask that we know your presence is in those moments when we truly question it. Walk with us. And in times when we cannot walk, lift our weary eyes from the trench of dejection. Show us that though the road ahead may be long, we do not walk alone. We never did, and we never will. Meet us here as we remember our past and honor our present. Unite us across our virtual realities, across the uncertainty that has come to define this year in ever more potent ways, across our vulnerable humanness and courageous humanity. Unite us here, right now. Help us together as the sacred collective to imagine a future that we may not see, but know to be true. Guide us as we speak boldly and proclaim that there is more. There is more. That in the nights of sweeping darkness and in the winter storms that surround us on the mountainside, there is more. Together, help us to proclaim this truth, this hope. Divine Spirit, we pray for an inspired imagination and the tenacity to pursue its manifestation. In your light, we pray.
Thank you, Jacqueline, for grounding us. This was just beautiful. And now it is our honor to welcome Secretary Contreras, Assistant Secretary for the Administration for Children and Families at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Assistant Secretary Contreras was appointed by President Biden and confirmed by the United States Senate with bipartisan support. In her role, she works under the leadership of HHS Secretary Becerra to strengthen the well-being of the nation's children and families with a focus on prevention, safety, economic stability, and equity. She does so alongside ACF's 1,500 employees, and in partnerships with state, tribal, territorial, and local governments, as well as a diverse network of nonprofit and philanthropic organizations. Throughout her career, Assistant Secretary Contreras has been motivated by a sense of duty to children, families, and individuals, especially when they're facing their most difficult moments. Welcome, Secretary Contreras.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this very special and powerful gathering. I greatly appreciate it. I'm January Contreras. As was just shared, it is my huge privilege to serve as the Assistant Secretary for the Administration for Children and Families. And I'm in my 5th month in doing so. I want to start this by thanking all of you for your advocacy and for your work to help people live a life that is free of violence. I want to acknowledge right here at the top the leadership of Shondell Dawson, the director of our Family Violence Prevention Services program here at ACF. Every stakeholder that I meet knows and appreciates Shondell, so I want to lift her up here in this space, as well as everyone on her team, because they've been working so hard. And I know it's the end of our fiscal year today, and I know how hard Shondell and her team have been working to really try to get the resources out the door to all of you. This call is about you. This call is about survivors. This is about how we work together to increase equity and to eliminate racism. But I do want to start by sharing a little bit about my own background in the last 20 years. I am a lawyer, and for the last 8 years, I've led a legal aid service. And before that, when I worked in the Obama administration, I had this very unique privilege of serving on the White House Council on Women and Girls and being tapped to lead efforts within the Department of Homeland Security to try to change policies, training, practices, so that undocumented immigrant victims of crime would be treated with the same respect, the same dignity, the same care as all other victims of crime. And we had a very particular focus on battered immigrant women. That work was amazing. And it was a real privilege. It felt like, to me, like divine intervention. I was put in a place at a moment where I could do something with a lot of wonderful colleagues that mattered. And I know that I imagine many of you feel that way about your own careers, that we were put in these spaces and people walk into our doors, and somehow the universe has helped us find one another, to help one another. What I didn't expect after leaving the Obama administration and going back to being a lawyer was one of my very first clients when I returned home to Arizona was a young mom who had been in detention, in immigration detention. And her story was exactly the story that we had been working on at Homeland Security. She had suffered a lot of abuse, was constantly threatened if she called the police. He would call the Border Patrol on her, or ICE on her. That eventually happened. He called local police, and she was put in detention. With the help of other lawyers, she got out. It was explained to her, that she could file for a VAWA petition. And then they found me to represent her in family court, because during all that time, her son was taken. And the courts gave custody to the father, as he really described her as abandoning their child. So we had this chance to go to the judge and just explain exactly what happened. We had, in that case, the father of the child was honest about the abuse that she had suffered, although described himself as changed. It was so intense. It was one where the judge had to call the sheriff to the courtroom. But it was a moment where at the end of the day, she left that courtroom heard. She got to tell her story. She got to get her son back. And she really felt like finally the system worked for her. And I feel like that's so much of what all of you do, all of us do together. We try to take these systems that in many ways and for so long have worked against the people that we serve for one reason or another. And we try to shift that balance of power, and we try to equalize it. And we do try to create equity so that those that we serve are heard, that they have some power to make the right thing happen, to seek justice, to seek safety. And that case for me, we're still Facebook friends, that particular client of mine and myself. She did get a successful VAWA petition. It never leaves me. And I know that you and your networks and your colleagues are meeting survivors every day and helping them get from point A to point B that look dramatically different. So I do want to thank you for that and share, knowing how much that means to individual people, to individual families, to the kids that they have. And I do thank you. It is really important to seek those who are marginalized. And so much of what I hear about your work and the intention that you bring behind that work is to make sure we, in fact, are seeking out folks who are marginalized, because they're most often going to be the ones to live in fear and to not know how to find help. So I thank you for recognizing that and for centering that truth. ACF supports this year's Call to Unity theme, and we recognize how many root causes there are that make people more vulnerable to violence. Economic stability, accessible childcare, affordable healthcare, including trauma-informed services, mental health and substance abuse services. And oftentimes it's a lack of whole family approaches. ACF is working hard to make ground in these areas through our very diverse programs. And we are working hard to shift our focus to prevention, to avoid crises before they ever happen. We know that our partners, all of you, are increasingly doing the same. I know you know, because I've heard so often how people are using their American Rescue Plan funds and others. I know you know the Biden-Harris administration and congressional priorities have really given us a launching pad for transformational change. Increased support for domestic violence and sexual assault services and programming. Increased technical assistance for culturally specific capacity and training centers, and increased possibilities for prevention supports. We know that as we're on this call, that there are people who are hurting and they were wondering how they will make it through another day. The investments that this administration has made make me very proud, because it shows that they believe that this is a priority and they believe that all persons should have the right to live a life that is free from violence. I thank you for being ready to find those people who need you, who need us, and for supporting them every day across the country. I'm hopeful that we can come together to answer every survivor's call for equitable services. I honor the survivors that we learn from, and I thank you for your advocacy, your leadership, and your sacrifice to help us move towards a stronger tomorrow for the millions of survivors who are living across the country. Thank you again for inviting me to be a part of this very special gathering, and I look forward to working with you every step of the way.
Thank you, Secretary Contreras, for this emotional and just inspirational message. Thank you so much. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Farzana Safiullah. Farzana leads and manages the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence as its Chief Executive Officer, strategically guiding its resources, policy advocacy, training, and technical assistance provided in the United States and its territories, while centering racial equity in advancing safety and supports for survivors of domestic violence. She's a founding member of the United States-based Muslim Advocacy Network Against Domestic Violence, focusing on building collaborative partnerships and developing resources. She has had a long and deep commitment to prevention of violence and is active in her local community in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, co-leading the Strategies for Community Action Committee of the Community Responders Network to expand community dialogue to protect and safeguard the safety, respect, and dignity of all. Welcome, Farzana.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you're doing well today, and thank you for inviting me to say a few words. A big welcome again, the 2022 Call for Unity. As we start Domestic Violence Awareness Month this October, we mourn and remember the many lives that have been lost as a result of intimate partner violence. We also remember the children and families that have been cruelly impacted by this violence. And we express gratitude to the advocates who support survivors' journeys to recovery, recovering their lives and well-being. This year's theme, as Arlene mentioned earlier, is No Survivor Justice Without Racial Justice, Cultivating Joy Towards Liberation. We know that joy and wellness is part of the healing from the trauma of violence. It is vital to the well-being of a survivor. However, it takes investment in the personal to start and sustain this journey of wellness and joy. I want to take a few moments to share what we do at the NRCDV for joy and wellness. We fundamentally recognize that the well-being of every staff person is essential for them to experience joy. And most of us who are here today and elsewhere in the world are in this work because of our passion as advocates. But that passion needs to be fueled. And one way we do that is by asking each person to set their wellness goals for the year at the NRCDV. And these goals are then visited throughout the year. What does this do? It gives the message that each person's well-being matters. Given the dominant culture's focus on maintaining high levels of productivity, we know that that takes a toll on our bodies. We have deliberately tried to counter that pressure at NRCDV by practicing spaciousness. One such example is having a shorter week in the summer and closing the office for a week in December. While I know this is not possible for all, I also know that when we first thought of doing it, it felt very challenging. Another example is one of our teams that is not led by any other than Arlene Bassel, who started us off this afternoon, and many members of our team who are here. They begin the team meetings by asking, what is your heart feeling? This is a critical way of connecting with each other because it gets to our core of wellness, the heart. Science tells us that the heart is now known to send more messages to the brain and gut instead of the other way around as we previously thought. When my heart feels good, I'm at peace and harmony with my environment. My staff and I intentionally take time to invest in our personal well-being. It is the only way to ensure wellness. While this may seem time-consuming at first, it is an essential need of the human body. This is where we can ensure that heart is well and that we are experiencing joy and wellness. This joy and wellness has a ripple effect. It creates more collaboration, greater understanding of each other, and greater alignment. That's what I've found as I lead this organization. Another way NRCDV fuels passion is celebrating joy in each other's lives and acknowledging the wins. Some of this is shared through storytelling, where we listen to each other's story of joy. And as I listen to the stories, I'm inspired by them. It opens my world to many possibilities. We also practice expressing gratitude. It creates an abundance within me. And there is a wise saying that I'd like to share with you. My power increases as I focus on gratitude, what feels good and brings me joy. I then create what I desire. At this time, I would like to express my gratitude to the advocates who work tirelessly to help survivors. At NRCDV, we are focused on dismantling anti-Blackness, both as staff working in the organization and in the work we do. In centering the needs of the marginalized, we interrupt systems to seek their wellness. I reach out to all advocates to center the joy and wellness of Black and Brown survivors. If they are well and happy, so are the rest of us. Finally, my deep appreciation to the team at NRCDV for your brilliance and energy in planning this event. I'm thankful to Director Chandel Dawson at FIPSA, at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for her unwavering support and leadership. I'm grateful Secretary Contreras for her time today to share a few words. Finally, I leave you with these words. Abundance comes from demand. The more we demand joy and wellness of ourselves, the more we will experience it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Farzana. We're honored to have you as our CEO. Beautiful words. Now, really excited. Our next speaker is Anna Williams. Anna has broken her silence to tell the story of her own experience of domestic violence so that other women may be inspired and supported to break free of their victimhood, as she has done. Anna is a bilingual professional speaker in English and Spanish. And Anna has pledged to make meaning out of her own tragic experience by helping women find the resources, support, and courage to live their abusive situations forever for a fresh start. Anna Williams is also the founder and owner of AMA Legacy, LLC, and a proud member of NRCDV's Survivor Speakers Bureau. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. It is an honor to be part of this great event, A Call for Unity. I am Anna Williams, and I am from El Salvador. I came to America when I was 18 years old, so I want to share a little bit of my story with you guys today, and thank you and welcome. So I came to America when I was 18 years old. I was full of dreams. When I came to America, I was thinking that America was a paradise where your dreams come true, where the food is different and there would be no violence, because I escaped from a war from my country. My parents decided to send me to America because it was very, very bad in the 80s in El Salvador. So I was so happy I first came to America. I was infatuated. I'm not infatuated. I was in love to be married to a Black man. My life was totally different in El Salvador to come to America. And I told my auntie, I don't know, auntie, I want to learn how to speak English because I want to marry to a Black American man. She said, no, do not go that way because they are dangerous. They will be beating you up and all kinds of crazy things she was telling me. And I didn't understand because to me, he was a human. And I believe, even though when I was a teenager, no matter what nationality you are, we have all kinds. And to me, he was any man, any person, no matter what color, we all are humans. But they didn't understand me. But yes, my dream came true. That was one of my dreams, to marry to a Black man. Which I did. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And when I moved, I actually moved with a roommate after a period of time. At that time, my parents were still in El Salvador. But in 1988, my mother was able to come, not my dad. He never wanted to come to America. So I moved to a roommate place, with my roommate I moved with my roommate. So one night she wanted to go party, and I was born Seventh-day Adventist. We don't party, we don't drink, we don't smoke, all those things. That's how I was raised, very protective from all the environment, because I was in a country that it was, people would judge you for that. That was my country. So what happened, she took me to a club. I ended there by accident. Then I was wearing a t-shirt and some jeans and some tennis shoes, but I'm like, I'm here, what can I do? So when I'm sitting there, I see all these beautiful girls that were so dressed up, so beautiful at that time. My English, oh my goodness, if I do have an accent now, can you imagine back in the first, I believe the beginning of the 90s, I didn't really speak that much English. So when I'm sitting in there, actually standing in there, I noticed that somebody touched my shoulder, and I look and the person was on the other side. And he said, hi. I'm like, hi. I see this big, muscular, tall guy, black chocolate. I'm like, oh. And he said, would you like to drink? I said, no, me no drink. Would you like the soda? I said, sure, I take a soda. So he invited me, he gave me a soda, and we exchanged phone numbers. And after that, we started to date, going to places, going to the movies, and anywhere that he wants to take me. But I noticed that he was very impulsive, and he was very outgoing, and a lot of time he wants to control me, but I was not sure if that was the case because I was amazed with him. I thought I was in love. I thought it was normal. Perhaps I want to go visit my mother. And at the time that I get home, it's actually 20 minutes from when I moved with him at the time. I'm just spinning my story because I don't have all the time. But after we move and all these things are happening, I have to go visit my mother or sometimes if he let me. So at the time that I get to my mom's house, it's 20 minutes. And then my mom was like, why is he calling you? It's only 20 minutes. You just got here. You just left the house. And I said, Mom, because he loves me. He wants to make sure I'm okay. Stop exaggerating, please, Mom. He said, okay. So little by little, I remember one time that I was at work, and it was a Sunday because I used to work in a jewelry store in downtown Los Angeles. So that Sunday I came back home, and when I get home, I see all his friends and they have music. It was a big thing going on. And I say, what's going on? So when I got home, he was in there with a engagement ring and asked me in front of everybody, will you marry me? And I know that I moved with him because he was insisting that we should live together to get to know each other. And I agree because I was from another country, culture, my broken English, it was hard for me to communicate or to understand him. So when he proposed me, it was like 2 or 3 months later because we moved. He asked me to move like a month later after we met. So I am not going to say no to this man in front of all these people and embarrass him. I knew that it was too soon to make such a commitment because I believe in marriage is forever. But I couldn't say no. I had to say yes and smile. But in my mind, I was like, what am I thinking? What did I just did? But it was too late. So to make the story short, time goes by and the charming guy became, I will call him a monster. I'm sorry, but to me, that's how he was. He started changing. He started calling me the B words, B here and F here, and pushing me around. I couldn't talk to no one. Like perhaps I'm talking right now. I feel free that I can talk. At that time, I couldn't talk. I had to just sit here like this. And if I will say something when we were around his friends or anyone or at the store, I will get in trouble when I get home. And it was pushing, calling me names and throw me in the bed or anything he would do. And there was times that we go to the groceries and I'm stupid. I don't know how to grocery shop. My daughter told me when she was 7 years old, Mom, you don't need to go grocery shopping. That said that you're stupid. You don't know how to shop. I'm like, what? And he would get upset because I will ask him, why are you saying this in front of the kids? But he didn't care. Perhaps when I come from the store, I have to organize the food in the pantry. You know, the tomato sauce, this color, go with this color. The cereal must be in a certain, everything has to be perfect. And if it wasn't perfect and I picked the tomato sauce and I decide to put it back because I would not use it because I made a mistake and I put it in the wrong shield, oh, I will get in trouble. I will get a slap. I will get a push. I will get any punishment for him. And also, the house has to be spotless because he made me quit my job. My house has to be very, very, very shiny, very beautiful. And if he find a little piece of trash in the floor, I will get in trouble. When I say in trouble, he will abuse me. There was one time that he was very upset because he found a little trash that I know that he put it in there to get me in trouble because he wants to beat me that day. So he put it in there and went off and off and off. He grabbed me, threw me under the bed as usual, put a pillow in my face for a long time. Of course I fight back, but I couldn't. He was a 6-foot man, very tall, muscular, and he was very strong that I have to fight back for my kids. So I was like, if I die here, who's gonna be there for them? He will kill them too. So I would push the pillow and I couldn't. So the pillow was taken out of my face until I lost all my energy. When I could not breathe, he finally let go. When I finally get to breathe, I got my energy little by little and he left, he like walked away. So I will go to my mirror and wash my face so the kids will not see me. But when I see my face, I have chicken pox all over my face. I have red points like blood in my face. And I would cry and I would tell myself that one day I would not be here, and I would pray and ask God to help me because it was very hard. It was so hard for me to continue to live the life. It was verbal, it was physical abuse and mental abuse. One time, he forgot that there was neighbors around. We were going somewhere, and I believe I forgot something, and he started hitting me in front of my neighbor. Who does that? But I was so happy that he did that in front of someone. My neighbor grabbed a broom and hit him and told him, why are you hitting your wife? This is the mother of your children. You are a man. You don't hit no women. So he took my daughter and my son and went in the house. And I had to hide for a period of time because I was so scared that I knew what was going to happen. So I waited until it got dark. And I have to go back home because I'm thinking about how my kids were doing. So it was very dark, the whole house. I'm going inside and my tiptoe scared. What is he? What is he? What he's going to do? He's going to get me. And when I got inside, he was sitting in the dark of the room with the dark lights out. And he started yelling, and he started cursing, and he started throwing me in the bed and tell me, how dare you make me look bad in front of the neighbors. And I didn't say anything back because I want him to be more calm. So I have to be assuming his wife many times because it would get worse. Okay, the time passed. The next day he goes to work, then he come back with a present. Can you believe that? It was so funny. He would come with beautiful dresses or anything that he can think of. I want you to know that he is related to celebrities. They are very famous all over the planet. Everybody knows who his family is. So I was the nanny, I was the servant, I was just nobody. To the point that he would get upset and grab me and drag me all over the floor in front of the kids and grab a big jar of water, break my dress, pull my hair, kick me, and pour the whole thing of water on top of me. It was humiliated, but I knew in my heart that one day I will be free. And I have to stay mentally strong and believe that yes, I will be able to escape because God will hear my prayers. Why was he taking so long? Because he needed the experience that I had. So I can come back today and tell my story and let every woman know that it is time to break the silence, to speak up, because we don't deserve to be beat. We were born to be loved. We were born to be beautiful, to take care of ourselves. And why not? Our husband's supposed to be taking care of us. We're not supposed to be working. Not that we're lazy because we take care of our house, but if that's our choice, why not? But I didn't have the luxury. I was home, but I was a stupid mother. I was a stupid wife. I was a whore. Any name that you can think, he would name me. It was very hard. I have to escape. I end up in a shelter the first time because I didn't have a plan. I went to a shelter and he found me. And I have to come back home because I didn't know that I was pregnant by another child. So it was so horrible. Can you imagine that I escaped, that I called the police and this man, and I knew what was gonna be waiting for me to come home. I didn't know if I was gonna be alive because I called the police and he went to jail. But he was happy when I came back home because he was happy because he was going to have me again to continue the abuse. Because when I left, he didn't have nobody to yell, nobody to scream, no kids, no wife, nothing. So he was happy. There was times that I had to walk out of this car when we was in the middle of a highway, walk out of the car when I was like 5 or 6 months pregnant because he was crazy. He was scaring me. He was pushing the car and doing all kinds of things, hitting and calling me stupid or pulling my hair. And then I have to use the bathroom. I was pregnant and I didn't have nowhere to go and I was by myself. So I have to many times get out of the car, walk out and see if I can get home where there's a lot of alligators there and snakes. But I believe that God will always protect me. And I would pee in myself because I didn't have nowhere to go. Until finally, he decided to come back and get me and put me in the car and promise me that he was not going to hit me. And I had to trust him because I was far from home. So I have to get home and make sure I get clean and be taken care of. Life was very hard. Life was not easy. But we cannot lose hope. And I give thanks to NRCDV because they give me the opportunity to train me to be a speaker. About 2 years ago in 2020, that's when I became a speaker. At the time I was in tears telling the story. I want to give thanks because of them, because of the training that you guys are giving, it does work. It works for me. So if it worked for me, I believe it works for anybody. So you guys are doing an amazing job. Keep doing what you're doing because this is why I am where I am right now. I am an author, a published author now. I wrote my book. The name of the book is I Am Anna, and I Am Breaking the Silence. My book will be released on October 6th, which is next week. So save the date. It's going to be on Amazon, and it's going to be digital first. And then 2 weeks later, so I believe it's going to be the book. So I'm so excited and happy because I can reach other women. And I feel like when you're in a battlefield and you are a soldier, you have to go back. You have to go back. So in this book, I explain every detail as much as I could. And I received an amazing review for the people who receive the manuscript, who have to, so if they want to write a review, they do. And it was amazing what this lady wrote. I'm not going to tell you the whole thing, but one of these beautiful words that she say, that this book should be given to every daughter before she starts dating. That means everything to me because yes, I explained everything, the signs of the abuser. So I'm so thankful for NRCDV because you train me, because this is You made me. So I'm very thankful for you guys. And I would like to recommend every woman, anybody who's hearing this message, if you can share, to let you know that you do matter, that our life matter. There's no survivor help if it's no justice, racial justice for us. And we are cultivating joy. And we all need to be together because it's not easy for us, especially me. I have an accent, so I've been through a lot. Not because of my color or maybe because I'm Hispanic, but it is important that when we do get together for this unity call, that we should have something together, perhaps in the hospital, when you go and you are abused, because I went to the hospital, they whisper, there she comes, is she using drugs or what? And we can hear what they're talking. So there's no support for a person like us that we don't look like we have scars, but we're crying and the bruise is probably in the head. He hit you in the head because he hit me in the head. He hit me in my chair. He sit me down. He slapped me. And there was some time that I told my arm was broke. But when you go to the hospital, they should have someone there assigned that is connected with any shelter or any enforcement to help us to have less calamities, because they need to have somebody assigned for domestic violence to help us, to put us in a room, because they criticize you. They be talking to you because they don't know better. We cannot judge them either. But it's something that should be there for us. But I thank God that I'm not there no more, but I'm here to step up, to stand up for every woman, for every child, for every gender, because we need to know that we all matter. I want to thank you, everyone, for attending this great event and for listening to my story. I am Anna Williams, and thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for listening to my story. Have a great day. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing your story. And it reminds us at NRCDV that, and this is something that we understand, that in order to truly end domestic violence, we need to address all the systems that generate and sustain it. And that working in solidarity across issues of injustice is the only way to bring about meaningful social change. We know at NRCDV that domestic violence is preventable, and ending it takes vision. That is why it is our promise to continue to lead boldly in centering and amplifying the voices of survivors and traditionally marginalized communities. And our commitment to racial equity continues to significantly shift the way that our work looks like. Principles of racial equity and justice continue to inform the content and substance of what we distribute to the field, as well as how we model what it means to integrate these practices into the movement. Every day, we are committed to stand with individuals and groups who have been targeted, degraded, threatened, or marginalized because they're Native Americans, people of color, immigrants, women, Muslims, LGBTQ, or people with disabilities. And we want for everyone that connects with us through social media, through webinars, through training events, to understand that we stand against white supremacy, racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, and other forms of structural oppression. And now, I want to welcome Vivian Huelgo. Vivian serves as Chief Programs Officer at Esperanza United. Vivian is a key member of the executive management at Esperanza United, articulating and implementing the strategic vision and leadership of the agency as she creates and supports a high-performing culture with staff in the Twin Cities area, Washington, D.C., and across the country, working on direct service, intervention and prevention, policy and training and technical assistance. Vivian has worked at the intersection of law and gender-based violence for over 20 years. For example, in 2010, she joined the American Bar Association Commission on Domestic and Sexual Violence as a chief counsel, working intensely on the organization's human rights, domestic and sexual violence, and human trafficking initiatives. Welcome, Vivian.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to Anna for sharing your experience with all of us. I feel honored to have heard from you today. I want to share a little bit about Esperanza, and in that way share a little bit about myself and my experience and our commitment as an organization with all of you at this moment of reflection. Esperanza United mobilizes Latinas and Latino communities to end gender-based violence. We do this work collectively with all of you. We work at the intersection of three areas or spheres. First, our very own Latinidad, our Latino culture, our larger Latino community. This is our foundation, our core. We deeply value its variety. If you think about it, across two dozen countries, across languages that go beyond Spanish, and across the variety of hues and spectrum of race. The diversity within our community is really our superpower. It is a superpower for the survivors we serve and for our staff. And it is where I personally found so much joy when I was, as you mentioned, working in the courts, in law, in the trenches, getting orders of protection, working to get custody for clients and for the survivors I was representing. This is where I found joy, where my joy was strengthened, and where it was replenished in order to keep doing the work that I was doing and that we are all doing. The second area in which we work is really rooted in a belief in the wisdom and leadership of our communities. We have a deep reverence for the communities we serve, and we hold their wisdom close in guiding what we do, whether it is policy work, shelter work, or other kinds of advocacy work. Having worked in the law myself, a system that was created far from the communities it purports to serve, I worked tirelessly to improve that system. And as you know, as all of you know, so much of that work remains. And as I left the law to join Esperanza United, looking to serve survivors, where I could serve survivors hand in hand, in real partnership, aligned, along with advocates who respect and honor the wisdom and expertise that is in our communities. It is here that I personally, after more than 20 years doing this work, I find renewed hope. And I also find an energy for action around the work that still remains for us to do. Our organization finally works to end gender-based violence. That is our mutual goal here. Our eyes, I think, are firmly fixed on this goal along the way we seek out justice with the survivors that we humbly serve. We know, I believe, that that justice is going to look different for each and every person. And we stand with you now at this time when we are here commemorating Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but also celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. And at this time, I think it's a moment to pause and recommit and repromise how I will serve our clients, how I will serve our survivors, but also how we as an organization will work and commit to each of you, our colleagues in this work, fellow advocates in this struggle and in this movement. What are the gifts that we bring, our superpowers, our joys, the joy that we find? We promise to share that with each of you. We commit at this time, at this moment of reflection, to listen, to learn, and to work together in transparency and to share our support in our collective work and efforts. This, I think, at a time when we are acknowledging the lives that have been lost, and we are also looking forward, it's an ideal time to recommit to one another, to work collectively and collaboratively, and to really bring joy and share that joy with one another as we work towards liberation. Thank you so much. Be safe and Godspeed.
Thank you so much, Vivian. I would like to introduce Shanice Stratford. She is a domestic violence survivor turned anti-violence advocate. Shanice is also a member of NRCDV Survivor Speaker Bureau. Shanice enjoys discovering new music and getting the right information about healthy relationships and abuse in front of young people. Today, Shanice will be reciting a poem written by her grandfather. The poem highlights the healing power of ancestral voices and offers a message about having the courage to push through adversity and reveal the unlimited power within ourselves to rise above our past and create the life we choose. Let's listen.
Hi, I'm Shanice Stratford, domestic violence survivor turned anti-violence advocate here in Charlotte. Hi, I'm Shanice Stratford, domestic violence survivor turned anti-violence advocate here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Today, I'll be sharing with you a poem written by my great-grandfather, Willie James Stratford Sr. He passed away in 2002 at the age of 78 when I was only 10. So I didn't get to know him as well. However, my grandfather, his son, Sport, has always made it his business to educate me on our family's rich history and accomplishments. It's really cool to be able to go outside and just see the impact my great-grandfather made on the growing city of Charlotte. I truly believe his legacy lives on through me. So today I'm going to be sharing a poem he wrote titled Black is My Hand. Black is my hand that held the hand that clutched the side of the boat over the ocean wide in 1619. Black is my hand that held the shackles and tried to catch the whip. Black is my hand that worked the fields, cooked the meals, made the beds, raised the white chaps, and mine. Black is my hand that dug the ditches, built the road, and ran the race of toil. Black is my hand that wiped the sweat of slavery and caught the tears of fear. Black is my hand that reached for freedom on the Underground Railroad. Black is my hand that claps with joy in celebration to my Lord, Jesus Christ. Black is my hand that shook the hands of Abe, Martin, Robert, and John. Black is my hand that did the labor, fired the guns, and all America's wars. Black is my hand that points toward heaven for hope, freedom that's only found in God. Black is my hand that's ever reaching. Thank you.
What a beautiful reminder about listening to the voices of our ancestors in our everyday lives. Now, I would like to invite Arlene back to share the last words of the day.
All right. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, everybody. Everybody's presentations were so powerful, inspiring, and just re-energizing. Black is my hand. Oh, that just resonates with my soul. It makes me want to bring my dad into this space. Because of that Black man, I am the Black woman who I am, and I show up the way I show up because of him, because of his love, and because of the hands, of so many. Shanice, thank you for that poem. And I mean, words that have been said and resonate: spirituality, ancestors, healing, survivorship, joy, our superpower, Vivian. Yes, just think about our superpower. And let's all just get into the space of honoring our stories and the stories of so many others as we do this work, right? And how do we cultivate joy? Always, again, a clear pathway towards liberation as we hold our own stories and the stories of others. All of our stories look and sound and feel different, but are significant. So how do we cultivate joy, healing, and wellness while we do this very, very difficult but needed work? I'll hold you with that thought. I'll send you off with that thought. And again, thank you for joining us as we kick off DVAM 2022. Learn more about our DVAM activities on social media. So if you're not connected with us already on social media, follow us so you can learn about all the other activities that we have planned. You can learn more about our messaging campaigns, the Domestic Violence Awareness Project Advisory Board, Advisory Group. Big shout out to that group who continues to inform our Domestic Violence Awareness Month messaging and activities by visiting our website at dvawareness.org. Brecken, I'm sure will drop that in the chat for you. There you go. Brecken's like always a second behind us. Shout out to Brecken who handles our chat as well. And of course, thank you to all of our NRCDV staff. It's all hands on deck type of event today and throughout DVAM. And thank you to everyone who joined us. Go forth, be great, and intentionally seek out moments of joy during DVAM and beyond. So thank you all again for joining us.